Everyone loves being rewarded, which is why it was nice to hear that the Big Ten rewarded Josh Proctor and Marvin Harrison Jr. for how they played in Saturday's 20-point win over the Maryland Terrapins.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back for the episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Tuesday, October 10th in the year 2023, and today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's episode, we will discuss areas that the Buckeyes need to improve in if they want to win the Big Ten Conference this year, and I unveil my college football top 10. But first, not one award this week for a Buckeye, but two rewards are handed out to two separate Buckeyes, as the Big Ten announced just a day ago that Joshua Proctor and Marvin Harrison Jr. were named Defensive Player of the Week in Proctor's case, and Offensive Player of the Week for Marvin Harrison Jr. for the Big Ten Conference. Both players over the weekend played good ball. You see the box score, that's one thing. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is making things easier for his teammates in the passing game. And also, once Kyle McCord kind of gets into the groove of the game, we find that McCord is really good at realizing, hey, Junior's going to get attention here. How about I hit one of his teammates, one of our teammates, and allow him to take a trip to the end zone? Cade Stover, just for example, a week ago. For Josh Proctor, man, this is a career year for this young man. Number 41. Many people, myself included, did not think this was going to happen for Joshua Proctor this year. I was off the Proctor train in our preseason look at the NFL draft, projecting. Remember my guy Ryan Roberts coming on the show and basically saying, hey, look, if he don't start, he's not going to get drafted. But even also discussing some hesitation with Proctor because he really hasn't put it all together yet and lived up to some of the hype that he had when he was recruited to Ohio State. This year, it's easy to say it's a career year for Proctor, and he is playing like a man that is going to get drafted. It will make a roster. It will be a good pro in the future. Not saying he's going to be a starter in the future at the NFL level. I'm not going that far just yet, but I am thinking about Proctor saying, hey, even if he's an NFL journeyman, it's partly because and mainly because he has raised his level of play this year. The stats say one thing about Proctor's performance over the weekend. Josh Proctor, 6 tackles, 5 of those were solo. He had 1 tackle for loss. He had 1 pass breakup. He had an interception that he returned for a touchdown. He is just stuffing the stat sheet every single week. Marvin Harrison Jr., numerically, and let's go to the stats to see what he did. 8 catches, 163 receiving yards, an average of 20.4 yards per reception, a long of 58 yards. We heard going into the season, amen, McCord and Jr., they were high school teammates, and they'll be able to recreate or have the same chemistry that they had in high school. Okay, a lot of people that were saying that never saw them playing high school live, never went back to watching the high school tapes of them playing the football. Well, because they were high school teammates and because they're now college teammates at Ohio State, they're making these statements without even really thinking about what they're actually saying. When it comes to these two guys, yes, the thought is, yes, it should be easy for them to have the same success that they had in high school in Columbus. But when you add in the degree of difficulty that it is to be a Buckeye quarterback and the number 1 receiver at Ohio State, knowing that every single week, the defensive coordinator on the other sideline, or maybe he's up in the sky, they have been scheming all week and working all week and maybe for a few weeks or months on how to stop you, Harrison Jr. They may not be so worried about McCord, but they're worried about number 18 on the sideline, on the side. Maybe he's in the slot. They're trying to find ways to stop number 18, which makes it maybe it makes it harder for Junior to get loose out there, but also it makes it harder for the quarterback who is in his first year as a starter, consistent starter, to say, well, this is a guy I'm comfortable with, but this is a whole lot different than high school. This isn't like high school. How can I get the ball to the number one receiver on the team, who is also the best receiver in college football? Buckeyes are finding different ways, and sometimes when Kyle McCord just needs to move the ball, and when all else fails, get the ball to number 18. We've seen it once. We saw it Saturday. We'll see it again in the future. These two guys together, it's great. Now, the email that I got from the Big Ten has a typo. It happens. It's okay. It says the last player for Ohio State to win Defensive Player of the Week was JT Tuimoloau last year on Halloween. I do believe that was a game against Penn State. When in reality, the last player from Ohio State to win Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week was Lathan Ransom following the game against Indiana. So what have we found? The two biggest games of the year, a member of the Buckeyes secondary has risen his play, has been better than he has it previously, made big plays. Lathan Ransom was in on a big, third or fourth and short, one that Sonny Styles and him combined on for the tackle. What do we find on Saturday? Proctor is getting better and better every single week. And I said the two biggest games of so far the season because Maryland is a better team than Indiana, than Western Kentucky, and than Youngstown State. Notre Dame's the best team. Maryland's number 2. And even then, if they put the Fighting Irish and the Terrapins on a football field for 4 quarters saying, hey, battle it out, who's better? There's a good chance Maryland would come out on top in that contest because Maryland's a good football team who is not getting a respect that I do believe they deserve. Put them in the SEC, they'll be in the top 5 even with one loss. Surely in the top 5. Conference affiliation definitely matters. Some have them in the top 5, some of them do not. I don't believe I have Maryland in my top 25, and I'm fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with it. But sometimes brand bias definitely, or conference affiliation definitely matters. Going forward, I would love for Harrison Jr. to not be the only Buckeye player to win Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week this year. The last Buckeye to win Offensive Player of the Week was C.J. Stroud last year on November 14th. Well, I forget what game was prior to that, but that's how long it's been. Almost a calendar year later, about a month away from being 12 full months from that actually happening. Let's hope it doesn't happen. Harrison Jr. recorded his third 100-yard receiving game this season with 8 receptions and 163 receiving yards. He tied Michael Jenkins and Garrett Wilson for third at Ohio State with 10 100-yard receiving games in his career. Josh Proctor in this game tied his career high with 7 tackles, set a new personal best with 6 solo tackles, and had 1.5 tackles for loss. Now, the numbers and the stats that I'm finding for Proctor don't have him at 7. One of the weird things about football, one stat can have this, another can have that. Those are the official stats. What I read earlier, unfortunately, was not correct. What is correct is Harrison Jr. and Proctor were rewarded for their performances against Maryland, and I can't wait to see if a Buckeye, after the performance against Purdue, is rewarded with this reward a week from now. Coming up next, Upon Further Review is back, and we are looking back and seeing what areas the Buckeyes need to improve if they want to win the Big Ten Conference this year. That's coming at you next on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. We are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports apps. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Once again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LockedOnCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LockedOnCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. When we look back to the Buckeyes' last game, when we also take into account the previous 4 games they played prior to the game against Maryland, the Buckeyes are currently 5-0. But for the first time in Ryan Day's tenure, there are things that he is enduring, maybe one thing in particular, that he has not had to deal with at this point in the season throughout previous years. 2019 as head coach, 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023. There's one particular area that for the first time in Ryan Day's tenure, you're looking at a unit, a group of 5. I'll give you that hint. You probably knew where I was going anyway. But you look out there and look at these guys there and say, they ain't got it. This ain't it. And it's not saying that they are not good players. No. That is not what we are saying here. I do believe that the 5 that are out there are good football players. Are they the best players on the team to play that position? Should there be a shuffling of what is happening for the Buckeyes on the offensive line? Maybe. It might also be too late for that. Think about it. One thing the Buckeyes need to fix if they want to win the Big Ten championship is their offensive line play. It is not just the running game. Running game, pass pro, it all needs to get better. And I have been one, and I said stuff on the show, on the post-game show, live reaction after the Buckeyes win over Maryland. Marietta was a 20-point win. I am one that has been very critical of wins, and now I'm learning and adjusting my analysis. I understand there are things that don't go well during a win, but winning a game over a team that is the 4th best team in the conference, that's huge. And winning it by 20 points, that's a big statement that you're doing right there. You can play your B plus B or maybe even B minus game and beat Maryland by 20, who has a really good quarterback who probably will get drafted in the future. Man, what are we looking at? We are looking at a team that in its imperfections is still undefeated. It's having guys rewarded by the Big Ten for how they're playing in these games. It's huge, man. It is huge, and I'm not trying to take it for granted what we're watching and what we are doing right now. In regards to the Buckeyes offensive line, I have said once, I'll say it again, maybe a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe coming out this week after the bye week was a time to try somebody else on the offensive line. Maybe reshuffling the starters, moving them around. I heard someone say, hey, maybe move Matthew Jones to center. Who would be right guard? Would that be Carson Hensman? Maybe. I don't know. But if you're trying to move guys around now, here's a thought that I have. It might be too late because some of the guys that are on the bench that might come in and play, it's Luke Montgomery, who's played a little bit but not played consistently. He's been wearing number 98, a non-offensive lineman number, so he has been doing that. So that's one thought there. But also, Tegra Tishabola. If you put either of those guys in, yeah, Purdue, it's one thing. But the first big action is against a Penn State team that is at midseason form, who could beat Ohio State, who can win the Big Ten championship this year. I don't know if that's a formula you want to have. Linebacker play needs to get better. As I rewatch the game and I think about what happened on Saturday, think about the past few weeks. Eichenberg is really good. Hasn't been playing consistently at the level that you would expect him to have. Yes, the stats say he had double-digit tackles over the weekend. Led the team in tackles. That is great. We're still finding him in Steel Chambers get caught up and confused in misdirection plays. So is that something that you have to worry about against Penn State, Michigan, and other people down the road? Absolutely. Look, if my team does not do misdirection, but I know the other team's backers get confused in misdirection, I am working now to try to do something so that in the future, when that comes up, what are we doing? We have plays that will cause the LBs or the other team to get confused. I remember the last time I played football, I remember this vividly. Sophomore year, undefeated Lawrence Central Bears versus the undefeated Warren Central Warriors. Warren Central won state the previous year. They were the juggernaut. They had guys. Darren Evans went to Virginia Tech. Jeremy Finch went to Florida, got into some trouble. But Warren Central was the team. They were the dynasty of the 2000s in the state of Indiana and football. And so when you think of, I remember this week, it was cold outside. I think it was fall break at this time. What did we find? I remember Coach Barthel all of a sudden looking out there. Maybe it was walkthroughs on a Thursday or on Wednesday as the team is getting ready to do their last full padded practice before a walkthrough in a game on Friday. What do I remember? All of a sudden, you got a wing out there? Now, Luther Rush, number 5, really good football player, man, really good. Played both ways, played a little running back, played some linebacker. He was good, man. He was good. But I'm like, okay, this is a little bit different. But you're trying to do something to combat what the other team is doing. Ultimately, didn't matter. Warren Central rolled LC that night. It was a cold night, one of the colder games I have ever been a part of. And it was just one of those things where you just couldn't overcome it. But I remember, I was like, Coach, are you sure this is going to work? We haven't really ran this much. We don't really do this. Is this sure this is going to work? And ultimately, it didn't work because the other team in Warren Central was just better than LC that night. But it's the same thing in college. These coaches are going to try to find different ways to attack the LBs at Ohio State. I don't know, man. LB play got to get better. O-line play got to get better. You got to try to figure out a way to get a run game. Like, these are all things that we talk about all the time because they're consistent issues. Penn State can probably exploit it. Michigan could probably exploit it. Those might be the only two teams left on the schedule that can exploit the issues at Ohio State. But going to Piscataway, New Jersey, they're going to try to exploit it. Going to Madison, Wisconsin, they're going to try to exploit it. Having Sparty come to town, they're going to try. Every team you're going to play is going to try to exploit the issues that Ohio State currently has. If they don't get better, I will tell you this. If they keep playing like this, you better hope their defense plays lights out, because if not, there's a good chance the Buckeyes don't win the Big Ten championship game this year. Coming up next, I unveil, I got to get my other notebook out, my college football top 10. Filled it out on Sunday evening. It is here for us today. The Buckeyes are in the top 5. A team jumped them. We'll discuss who that team is today, next on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Jase Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase case. The Jase case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication, delivery, and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using LOCKEDON at checkout on Jase Medical. medical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Promo code locked on. This episode is also brought to you by our friends, our local friends in Columbus at Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more, and the best service in Central Ohio. And did you know Billiards Plus has top-of-the-line grills with up to 30-year warranties? That's longer than most roofs. Billiards Plus carries the best pool tables from Brunswick, Alhassan, Canada, Billiards, and more. Plus, top-of-the-line grills from PK, Napoleon, Memphis, and La Griddle. That could very well be the last grill you own. The perfect gift for any occasion is in stock at Billiards Plus. Go big with an awesome pool table or shuffleboard table, or a little more modest with a dartboard or poker table. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. And the people at Billiards Plus are the best part of the experience. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole staff will take amazing care of you. Billiards Plus, visit their showroom. You might leave with a gift that someone in your family will love. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. It is that time of week where Jay gets out his notebook, where he keeps all the notes. I got a notebook for my other job covering high school football on Friday nights. I got another notebook dedicated to you, the viewers and listeners of Locked On Buckeyes, the Everydayer Club. Appreciate you. If you're not a part of the Everyday Club, join the fun. It's a great club to be a part of. But my top 10 this week, and there's a team at number 10 that I thought about putting at number 11, but then I remembered what happened in Dallas, Texas, down at the Texas State Fair. Still a thought. Still a thought there that my number 11 team should be my number 10 team. No, I don't have Oklahoma at number 11. For anybody thinking that Jay has Oklahoma at number 11, that is not the case. 10 through 1 this week, and I'm not telling you where Ohio State is yet, but just know number 6 and number 5, they could very well jump the Buckeyes based off how they play this coming weekend. Number 10, USC, the Trojans. Number 9, Alabama, a team that I was not too fond of early in the year, but man, they keep winning, and that defense is good. Number 8, Washington. Number 7, Oregon. Game day will be there this weekend. The game is in Washington. Number 7 versus 8 in my bracket are playing Saturday afternoon, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. I do believe that game is on ABC. Number 6 is Penn State. Number 5, Oklahoma. Number 4, Ohio State. Number 3, Michigan. Number 2, Florida State. Number 1, Georgia. Now, this was difficult, just being honest with you. I don't think going into this weekend, I gave Oklahoma the credit that I should have given them. That's a good football team. A really good football team. I'm reminded of all those Brent Venables coached defenses at Clemson, and I saw what they did to numerous teams, saw what they did to Ohio State a few times, and I said, oh, okay. Brent Venables went back to Oklahoma, a place he used to coach at, and he is doing some things in year 2 that a lot of people did not think he would do. Ohio State at number 4, that was one of the tougher places for me to put them. There's a good chance that Michigan, some people may have Michigan number 2 or number 1. I'm not going that far yet. But if Georgia keeps playing like they are, Florida State keeps playing like they are, and Michigan keeps playing like they are, look, that's probably going to be the top 3, and that could be jumbled up every single week. But Oklahoma, Penn State, Oregon, Washington, that is where 5 through 8 things are really, really, really tricky. If it wasn't for the Buckeyes defense, the Buckeyes might be 7 or 8 in this poll. I could easily move everybody up 1 because these teams are better on both sides of the ball than Ohio State is at times. Ohio State at its best, and I think we have seen them at their best before, still has some offensive issues. The Western Kentucky game, excuse me. I'm thinking more Notre Dame. At their best, Ohio State is still one of the best offenses in the country. Just got to see it consistently. I am nervous for the Penn State game. I cannot sugarcoat it. I am nervous. Penn State is good. James Franklin is hungry. I know it's a game in Columbus. I know it's a home game. It was just announced that game is going to be at 12 noon Eastern on Big Fox. It's Big Noon. And trust me, tomorrow when we do our stock watch, stock up, stock down, the whole Fox broadcast is going to come up because I am not happy with how things went over the weekend with how that game was broadcast. I thought Fox broadcasts were a little bit different than they were. It made me miss the worldwide leader broadcasting Ohio State games. Can't dive into it too much yet. That is going to come up tomorrow at the end of the show during our third segment during tomorrow's show as we do our portion of stock up, stock down, 3 on stock up, 3 on stock down. You probably know where Fox is going to be. We're going to dive into that a little bit more tomorrow. But this year, and I'm not even going to say it's different than any year. Like if I go by my top 12 right now, Texas is 11, North Carolina's 12, Oregon State 13, Ole Miss 14, Duke 15. Like we can stop right here and say, as good as this year is going to be in college football and how it's going to be a fight going into November to see who the Final Four is going to be, I know there's going to be a 12-team playoff next year. That's not needed. In any given year, there aren't 12 teams good enough to win the national championship. This ain't it, man. No. Now, if you want to say 8 or 6, even then I might say, I don't know, man. In a good year, you probably got 3, maybe 4. 5 is pushing it. And so I understand the 12-team playoff is coming in next year. Not the biggest fan because of how I know the sport can be ran to keep that group of 4 so exclusive. TV partners come in, people paying money, maybe under the table to make this stuff happen. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. They've been having closed door meetings for years in college football, and that's not going to stop. Even if they have a college football commissioner and a governing body, there's still going to be things happening behind closed doors and things that you don't want your boss or the commissioner of the sport to find out about. That's always going to happen. But going forward, if Ohio State wants to stay in my top 5, they got to show me a whole lot more. Because as Michigan keeps playing well, and Florida State and Oklahoma and Georgia, if they keep playing and getting better and better and better, and Ohio State's offense keeps struggling at times, man, look, I might have to come back over here and just discuss and say, well, Ohio State's defense is good. Offense, still need to see more from them. Out of here on a Tuesday. You can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at JStevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. I say formerly known as Twitter because some people out there might not know what X is. So I want you to know, hey, it's formerly known as this. So if you don't know what X is, this is what X currently is. It was a site formerly known as Twitter. Even though on my web browser, I still type in twitter.com on my computer and Twitter still comes up. So, hey, man. Oh, life. Things change at the drop of a hat. Just got to roll with the guys. What we're rolling with is the end of this show, and I can't wait to get back tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday to close out the week of shows. Trying to have a recruiting show coming up later this week for all of us to enjoy Locked on Buckeyes to get an update on Buckeye recruiting because we're almost to flip season. And the Buckeyes flip one player or two. You got to wait a little bit to see if that is going to happen. This has been Locked on Buckeyes here on a Tuesday, Buckeye fans. I'll see you next time.